Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California, where we are the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley is the heart of the great state of California. Got a lot of heart going on. We're bringing a lot of heart to today's lesson. I'm glad you're with us today. I hope when you started the morning this morning, before you opened your eyes, that you welcomed the day in thanksgiving for the gift that Principal has given you, for the experience that you're going to have during this day, and for the guiding and guarding and all the adventure that God will bring to you in your life during this day, so that you can live life at an ever higher, greater degree of livingness, and just take charge of the day with your co-pilot, divine principle, God, first cause, whatever you want to call it. Again, welcome to the show today. I think we are now on, I believe this is part 7. As we started off, originally when I started this, I figured we'd do it in 3 or 4 lessons, but because I've taken the time to really get into it, we're at 7, and chances are we'll probably go to 10, figuring, give or take a little bit. But today, if you've been with us, you know that we're starting off today on page 35 of the book, Pray and Prosper by Dr. Ernest Holmes. It's a great little book. It's not very expensive, and it is a powerful book. Even if you've been in science of mind, religious science, New Thought, as a practitioner, as someone that puts that philosophy, that faith into practice in your life each and every day, what a great little tool this is, not only to go through it the first time, but to go back through it again and again and again. It's important that as we walk our spiritual path, as we begin and continue on through this spiritual adventure that we call our life, that we continuously seek to stretch, to move beyond, to get outside the box, so to speak, and to, like I said, to live at a higher degree of livingness each and every day of our life. And if you've never done it, it's an awesome place to be. But if you're doing it now, if you're on your way to doing it, you can realize, and as I'm sure that you do, what an incredible gift that this thing that we call life is. And it's awesome, and it's ours. And we come into this life, this physical expression of life, with a potential of all the things that we may need, want, and desire. That the divine principle has already laid that out for us as individual expressions of that, so that we can live our life at a higher, greater degree of livingness, that it is available to us. First, we have to know that it's available, and 2, then we have to begin to get our own mental house in order, if you will, so that we can utilize the gifts and utilize the potential that God has laid out for us as an individual expression of the divine itself. And as we do that, as the great teacher told us many years ago, that at the level of our belief, that it's done unto us, that when we go to God, when we go to Spirit with belief already in our hearts, our minds, and our imagination, that which we go for, we can have an intention and expectation to see it demonstrated in our life. So, moving forward today, this particular segment that we're starting in now is called Prayer and Recognition. And Holmes tells us, he says, the art of prayer arrives at a point of certainty when it recognizes the gift even before it is made. A couple things I want to start off with. The art of prayer. Prayer is not it's not an intellectual exercise. When Holmes says that prayer is an art, it truly is. It's like anybody can go through dance steps once you learn them, but to embody the dance, to make it a form of artistic expression, is a whole different thing. And it doesn't come just because we've read the instructions that say, we do this step, that step. It's the same way with playing musical instruments. It's the same way with any other form of expression. A lot of people don't think that as we live life, as we express life, that in that livingness alone, there is art to be expressed in our life. When we embody the divine, when we seek to express the divine back into this physical expression, that truly is an art of living, if you will. And when we get into a point when we begin to seek to use affirmations, to use prayer treatment in our life, there is this art to it, that we don't just sit down and intellectualize something, that we bring it on, if you will. And again, as I've said in past, and I'll say it again and again throughout the rest of this, as we go through this book, practice, practice, practice. Practice makes improvement. And people, they make the mistake of thinking that practice makes perfect, and they get discouraged if with a little bit of practice they don't see that perfection. No, don't be discouraged. First off, know that practice makes improvement. And sometimes improvement comes and then we kind of seem to like maybe fade back a little bit before we move forward again, but hang in there. Practice makes improvement, and it works for everybody that takes the time to do it. And how powerful it is in our individual life experience and expression when we put into practice the art of prayer. And so again, I go back, Holmes says, the art of prayer arrives at a point of certainty. Arrives at a point of certainty. We're going to come back to that word in a minute too. When it recognizes the gift even before it is made. First off, the gift that we're talking about, that gift lives in that potentiality that I was just talking about. That gift is was set there to have a correspondence within our life as we become aware that in our life, that is something that we wish to see, we have a desire to see expressed and manifested. So, and as we speak our word, as we're in our affirming of the good that God has given us in potential, in our recognition of ourselves as truth, in the excitement and the individualization, the image and the feeling, and we get to that point in our treatment, and we should all get to this point that when we hit that point of realization, and that inner realization, that inner knowingness, that inner expression of experience, that which we have sought to see, demonstrate, manifest in our life already exists. We have not just a knowingness, but a conscious embodiment of it as already being so. Holmes used to say, we know and we know that we know. It's that and that much more. So we recognize that and in the creative order, everything passes, as Holmes says. Everything passes. Now, don't hold your breath, but here we go. From intangible into the visible through the act of ideas manifesting itself as form. This is it. The invisible into the visible. From potential to material, and the interesting thing about material, this is the material world, okay? That's the immaterial world, the spiritual world. But there's something else too. There's something that, as we look at material, one of the things that we do is we describe material as matter. And we make the mistake oftentimes of thinking that matter's not really living. But going back again, there's one life. That life is God. That life is our life. And that life is all of creation. In the beginning was God. God is life. All that is created is some form of livingness, whether it's no consciousness like this material here, or incredible consciousness like each and every one of us, matter and non-matter, okay? Matter is an interesting thing because we oftentimes, we get a little lost in our addressing the infiniteness. Last time or time before last, when we were talking about spiritual substance, we are immersed in, it's around us, it's potential, waiting to seek expression in form. Matter, form, matter. But there's also another understanding of what the word matter means. Something matters to us. So we have matter as in material, but we have something that matters to us as in inner importance. If it matters to us, it means we've embodied an idea of the importance that it has to us in our life expression. When we speak our word, we're speaking the immaterial, the non-matter, seeking to express in the material world, in matter, and having it matter to us as we speak our word. It's just kind of a little play on word, but it is an understanding that as we're going through this, we want to get to that point to where it matters. where we're at in our treatment. It matters that we get to the end of the treatment. It matters that we know, that we have an inner knowing, that regardless of what conditions, what effects tell us, what other people say, what the world says, it matters to us that we know that it's already so in some way, shape, or form. So, he says, therefore, Jesus told his followers to pray, believing that they had and they would receive. It matters. We pray as if we get to that point, as if we already have. We pray and we act as if. When Holmes talks about when we treat and move our feet, well, we understand that. But in that moving our feet, it's not us going around telling God or doing things that we need to make sure that God gets done in order for those conditions, those effects to be addressed. Because God may not pay any attention to those conditions or effects. Principle will provide for us. Principle will provide for us at the level of our belief, regardless of conditions and effects. We have to know that. We have to make it matter to us, and we have to get to that point of realization. We're going to take our first break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs. Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at CondioPress.com and as ebooks at Amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at God'sInspirationsBlog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today. Are you or a member of your family beginning to show early signs of forgetfulness that may be Alzheimer's or dementia? The only way to be sure is through an expensive brain scan. Dr. Parminder Bhatia of the Neuropain Medical Center is helping in a clinical trial for those with memory problems, dementia, or mild Alzheimer's disease. Those accepted into the trial will have all costs paid for, from diagnosis to evaluations and trial medicine. There is no cost for those who are accepted in the trial, and there may even be some compensation for the patient's time and travel. For more information, call 559-437-9700, extension 310, and visit neuropain.com. Visit the beautiful city of Exeter and visit ExeterChamber.com. The Chamber's mission is to promote, support, and enable Exeter to prosper, creating a strong local economy, promoting community, and providing networking opportunities. Follow the Chamber on Facebook and Twitter, or give the Chamber a call at 559-592-2919.
Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERASAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye. Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. I hope you enjoyed what we're covering today. I hope you've had the chance, the opportunity to take time and go back and review the earlier lessons that we've gone through as we study this book, Pray and Prosper by Dr. Holmes. And I want to thank you for being with us today. You know, it's important that we share our teaching, we share our understanding, and we put it into practice in our lives. And I feel very blessed that I've had the opportunity to do this. So, taking that opportunity at hand and putting it into practice, Holmes tells us, he says, recognition is an image of acceptance held in mind until the condition accepted appears either in the body or in the affairs. We often think of, when we're treating that, maybe we're treating for prosperity or we're treating for health, and understanding that no matter what it is that we're treating for, whether it be a sequence of events or whether it be a material reality, a demonstration of the divine's perfection in our life as we express life in greater health, greater abundance, prosperity, a higher, greater degree of livingness, regardless of what it is, that this thing that we call spiritual substance, we talked about it, is the major player in this. It's there and it's always there. We're surrounded by it. It's always available to us, and at the level. And if you happen to have the book, and I believe it's just entitled Prosperity by Charles Fillmore, he opens up his first chapter and he talks about it. And he talks about the importance of having that understanding of how spiritual substance is not only ever available to us, but we have a direct relationship with it continuously. It's kind of like God, if you will, by principle, first cause. So there you go. Anyway, recognition is an image of acceptance, getting that in our imagination. And I'll refer back to Neville, and if you haven't had the opportunity to read any of his books, they are readily available. One of Neville's great gifts that he brought to New Thought is the understanding of the power of the imagination and the role that it plays in the creative process. Holmes addresses this in his way, and Goldsmith in his way, and Fillmore in his way. I like Neville's approach because he that's where he's focused on, and it you could do a lot worse than not taking the time to read his books. It's very good. Anyway, I want to recommend that. He says we are either accepting or rejecting at all times. We are either recognizing the divine principle as goodness or as evil. Well, how do we recognize the divine goodness as evil? Well, evil is a very interesting word because as we talk about evil within the relation of New Thought, we're not talking about some sinister, if you will, whether you want the red painted guy with the horns or, however you want to understand that. There is evil that is expressed in the world. We call it evil. We can experience it as evil. But in truth, what it is an expression of an individual or groups of individuals that have in some way imposed themselves upon and taken from other beings that which is theirs by right of their birth, if you will, including their life, including their ability to enjoy life, to live life at a higher, greater degree. We get that. Okay, that's the big. But let's bring it down. Let's talk about it on a more personal level, because this is also an area where in New Thought, when we talk about evil, we're talking about limitation in our life, if you will. I mean, most of the time we don't think of limitation as something that is evil. But evil is not evil, if you will. Evil is being out of alignment with truth, out of alignment with principle, out of alignment with God in any way, shape, or form. If we allow limitation in our life, if we allow our life to experience things that are not life-affirming, essentially we are living a life experiencing that which we call evil. And neither at any level, no place in our life, no time in our life, are we ever if you will, we're not, well, the word slips my mind, but we are not supposed to live life at that level. And we have a way out. It may take a little work. We have to recognize that we have a co-partner, that we are, not only are we God expressed, but we are God expressing in our life also. And again, this goes to our understanding, our embodiment of belief, and then our willingness to put that belief into practice in our life through our affirming, through our affirmative prayer. So, we cannot be too careful in studying to attain recognition. He says this really means that we must look into what appears to be empty space, into a void, and see a solid rock upon which the feet of faith may be planted. In other words, being able to look out into the nothingness, being able to look out into conditions that are adverse or limiting or non-life affirming, and rejecting those as having to be the soul defining experience in our life. That doesn't mean that there won't be challenges. As I've said in the past, life should bring us challenges. We should recognize and seek to not only address those challenges, but to transcend them. And as we do, we grow in faith, we grow in strength of belief, we grow in our ability to demonstrate and to manifest in our life. But if we don't practice, if we don't have that inner understanding, we'll never get to that point. So, he says, the reason for this is plain. Everything that Jesus said, did, was descriptive of the divine nature and of the law of cause and effect. And here we are, this many weeks into the book, and we're still talking about the law of cause and effect. Why are we talking about that? Because that is the big law. That is the supreme law, if you will, on which everything else is predicated. That when we understand that for every effect, for every condition, there's a cause behind it, and the ultimate cause behind everything ultimately is divine principle, is God. We have a direct line, if you will, to that divine principle at the level of our belief, the level of our understanding, through our openness and willingness to take the time to experience within our own inner beingness the point of realization as if it is already so. And that's the purpose of affirmative prayer. But we also have other tools that work along the way. Affirmations, for example, meditation, for example, and then things that we can put in front of ourselves through like journaling or vision boards or many other things. But they keep our mind, our consciousness focused on that as already being so, and we don't accept anything less. If we experience doubt, fear, worry, we have to address those within ourselves, and we have to know that they have no power. There's no foundation. There's nothing, and we can address those at such a way at that level, and we can deny them the power within our mind. We can deny them the ability to express in our thought, but we have to be aware of it, and we have to take action, and that's part of moving our feet. So he says here, Jesus, he knew how things worked from the invisible to the visible. And when he told us to recognize and accept, he knew what he was talking about. We must learn to recognize the gift before it is made. We have to know it as already being so. Those conditions, those effects that seem to be limiting, that seem to be working against us. Life comes at the speed of life. We have things that we're unprepared for, and what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do what we've been practicing. We're going to go to God. We're going to go to principle. We're going to depend on principle, knowing that in every aspect, in every action of our life, as we depend on principle, as we depend on God, knowing that it is there, He is there, she is there, they are there, however you want to understand divine principle, knowing that it will respond to us at the level that we seek and believe and know that it will respond to us. And that's available to each and every one of us, and that's something we can grow. We can grow our faith, we can grow our belief, we can grow our understanding. We have to make a choice to do it. And that choice is always individual. It's your choice. It's my choice. We're going to take our next break, and I'll see you when we come back.
With Organic Pastures Raw Milk, you're getting a product that has been meticulously managed from grass to glass. From our pastures to our dairy, creamery, and distribution, we work hard to produce a product that is safe and clean for you.
Got lactose intolerance or dairy allergies? Discover delicious raw milk and discover dairy the way it's supposed to be. We provide tours and would love to see you. Come visit the cows, watch the milking, the cheese being made, and learn all about raw milk. We're just 20 miles south and west of Fresno, California. Call to schedule a tour at 559-846-9732.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Christy Majors is your local real estate connection. With a solid, hardworking team, traditional listings, short sales, probate listings, and foreclosures are treated in a personal and caring way and close in a timely fashion. Since 2009, Team Majors has closed more than $75 million worth of homes all over California. Reliable and trustworthy, Christy and her team will go the extra mile for every client, whether selling or buying a home. So give Team Majors a call at 559-464-5606 or visit teammajors.com.
After a tough day at the track, cleaning up can be a time-consuming task. That's why we use Extreme Cleaner, the non-toxic, biodegradable, multi-purpose cleaner and degreaser. Extreme Cleaner cuts through even the toughest of grease and grime. Fast. Great for cleaning tools and work surfaces. Extreme Cleaner. Tough on grime, safe on the environment. Visit extremecleaner.com to find a retailer near you.
When you experience flooding in your home, you need to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. After soaking in water for only 45 minutes, carpet starts to come apart. Clean Master Emergency Flood Service can help, and not just with carpet repair. They also offer carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, carpet installation, and more. Call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, and they'll be there in 60 minutes. Call 559-213-9430.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, Reverend Steve Walling. Moving forward, we are on page 36 in the book Pray and Prosper by Dr. Ernest Holmes. The next section we're going to address here says, prayer as petition. Now, that can be kind of, if you're familiar with New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, and we talk about prayer is not petition. We don't go to God in the sense that, please God do for us, with the hope that one, we got God's attention, and two, that God will decide to maybe answer our prayer. We're going to get into this a little bit. You understand what Holmes is talking about here. He says, prayer as petition. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. He says, this petition is not to a faraway God who may or may not respond. It is a recognition of the divine presence, which is always ready and willing to respond. What is God's will? God's will is for us. His will, her will, their will is for us to live life, and to live life more abundantly, to live it more perfectly, to live it more amazingly, so that as we experience life at ever higher and greater degrees, that also the divine principle is experiencing life through us at those higher and greater degrees. And truly, that is our purpose. So we move forward. He says, it is the recognition of the divine presence which is always ready and willing to respond. True prayer always says, thy will be done. Okay? And thy will, God's will, again, is for us, each of us individually, to live life, to live it more abundantly, passionately, and to see life as this great adventure. You know, understanding life as a great adventure is not something just for those people that, you know, want to go climb Mount Everest or skydive or stuff like that. Each and every day of our life is truly an adventure, even if we're just going through the things that are part of our habitual daily experience. But we don't have to accept them as just being mundane. We don't have to accept them as just being so-so or drudgery. If it's not what we want to experience in our life, granted, we have those sometimes, but we don't have to stay there. We can and do have the availability to move beyond, to move out of. But we have to know, one, that we have that availability, and two, then we have to put that availability, that potential, into play in our life experience. And that's why, you know, I said earlier today that when we were created, if you will, kind of metaphorically speaking, that at the same time, a field of pure potentiality was created for each and every one of us individually, and that is always available to us throughout our life. What that means is there's no time where we cannot begin to strike out on something new, a new adventure in our life. That adventure may be writing a book. It may be writing poetry. It may be traveling the world. It may be traveling our neighborhood. You know, for each and every one of us, it is specific and it is different and it is individual. But for each and every one of us, that potential is there for us to grab. We've got to recognize life is an adventure, no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing. So he says here, thy will be done. He says, an intelligent perspective of truth, and that's with a capital T, truth, the divine, what God principle wants for us, expressing in our life, recognizes that the will of God and the nature of the divine being are identical. Years ago, someone asked me, and I think it was when I was taking an exam, you know, well, what is the will of God? And I said, in response, I said, God doesn't have will as we understand will. You know, we think of will, it's what we have individually, but God's not an individual anthropomorphic being. God is this infiniteness, right? So to kind of see an overlay or give God humanistic, ideas, understandings, or whatever ways of thinking, I said that can't be. But there is a will of God, if you will, no pun intended, and that will is in creating each and every one of us, that we take the gift of life and we live each and every day as if it counted for something very special. Living the life, living the adventure. That is truly the will of God. That is also, as we begin to discover the truth of our being, the who and what we are in our life experience. It's kind of interesting, you know, when you think about it, right? So he says, God cannot will anything other than perfection. God cannot will anything other than abundance. God cannot will anything other than goodness, truth, and beauty. In other words, God provides for us in potential all those things. Our job is to recognize, to step out of our ignorance, to step out of the shadow, to move out into the light, to take that which is within us and bring it, give it life, give it power, give it energy, give it recognition, because we have to know and know that we know that that's what the divine, that's what God wants for us. God wants us to be. God wants you to be abundant, successful, wonderful in feeling, expressing life at a way, at a level that you just go, it just can't get any better than this. Knowing that it's going to, because tomorrow's a new part of the adventure. So he says, submission to a superior intelligence, not to an opposing power. He says, our request is made as to a friend who we know is both able and willing to respond. In other words, we're not really asking God to step out of God's way. What we're really doing in this is recognizing that God has already given the gift and claiming the gift. You know, one of the examples that we use oftentimes is God pours the infiniteness over each and every one of us each and every day, but most people take a thimble. Some people don't even know to take a thimble, right? But if you know that you can take a thimble, then you know that you can take something greater. And as you expand that, which is expanding our acceptance, expanding our personal receptivity to good in our life. And how wonderful is that? It can be very threatening for some people. If they have an inner belief of unworthiness, whether it's at a conscious level or a subjective level, opening themselves up to accepting more and greater good can be, like I say, can be very daunting, very scary. But we have a source, we have a resource, we have a salve, we have the right sunshine, we have the right vibes, we have the right music, and exists in our heart, exists in the innerness of our being. And it was planted there before we ever took our first breath in this physical plane. We can do it, we can claim it, we can know it, and we can put it into practice because truly that is the will of God. So we move on. He says, it is the recognition of Spirit as a friend and the acceptance that this friend acts in our behalf, not whenever, but immediately. Think about it. Immediately. That's pretty like right now, right? We don't get that most of the time. Most people, they think about, well, when I treat or when I pray, when I'm seeking to express greater good in my life, that there's some time factor involved. And because we believe that, that's true. There is some time factor involved. But God responds, Spirit responds, principle responds in the moment, now, at the level of our belief. Before we speak our word, our Father already knows and has responded. Doesn't get any better than that. But if we're not experiencing it, we can't blame the source. We have to look at the recipient and maybe open up our acceptability, our acceptance, right? So he says, it is this recognition of Spirit as a friend and the acceptance that this friend acts on our behalf immediately and with power that brings the answer. Do we not pray for a harvest? Think about it. Do we not pray for a harvest when we plant seeds? Isn't that what we're doing? When we put that seed into the ground, when we sign up for college, or when we're as simply as when we get in the car to go somewhere, are we not, and we don't think of life in these terms, but are we not planting the seed of our destination? You think, well, come on, Steve, that's just a physical. It's not just a physical experience that we drive through. It is something that we have to consciously, in the moment, decide that it is the most important thing for us to do in that moment, is to get in that car, to go wherever it is we want to go. Maybe it's to the store, maybe it's to see a friend, maybe it's to our center to celebrate on Sunday. Whatever it is, we have in that moment made a choice. And in that choice, we have declared a demonstration. And if you don't think about life in those terms, begin to do so, because all of life is expressed in those terms. All of our experience in life is expressed in those terms. And when we begin to realize that we are the decision maker, the choice maker, we put the power, the emphasis on that. What kind of seeds are we planting? What kind of seeds are you planting? Are you planting a seed that has some doubt? Are you planting seeds that maybe run contrary to your personal beliefs about how life is supposed to be? And we all, at some degree, some level, have those things, every closet has a few cobwebs. Some have more. One of Dr. Holmes's metaphors, and I like this one, and he talks about as we're working through our mind, imagine it, if you will, that we're looking in our mind as if it is the living room in our house, right? And it's got all that old furniture, and cobwebs and whatever. And that as we begin to embody new thinking, new consciousness, that we're trading out that old furniture and replacing it with something new, something that we desire, something that brings life to that room, that removes the dinginess. And think about living life at that level. We can all do that. We can all plant those seeds. And we can plant those seeds, we can have faith, just like a farmer has faith that when he plants that seed, that harvest time is going to come. It's available to each and every one of us. We're going to take our last break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine, available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant. Get your copy of Crouching Mama Hidden Veggies today, packed with recipes of delicious food cooked with hidden vegetables, so you can feel confident that you and your family are eating your veggies.
Contact Sprague Electric for all things electrical, solar installations, battery systems, troubleshooting, repairs, and more. Call 559-760-0712. SpragueElectric.com.
Call PG's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave your taste buds wanting more. Call 559-558-2682 and follow Peaches on Instagram and Facebook. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Doctor Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. And join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. Moving forward, the next segment here is prayer as a science. And you know, when we think about spirituality, prayer as a science, we're traveling back in time to the beginning of the 20th century, when New Thought was in its big growth, kind of its heyday, and science in many levels was very popular in the world. During those times, you know, the birth of quantum physics was happening around those time. Around that time, Einstein was, you know, talking about his theory of relativity. There's a lot of things going on. You know, Niels Bohr, who had been told when he went into college, don't bother studying physics because, you know, we knew everything there was to know about physics, became one of the fathers of this thing called quantum physics. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. But science at that time was seen in a rather romantic sort of way, but there was an understanding, too, about science. And that was that science was what they called a mathematical perfection. And that, you know, basically plays out if I have A and I add it to B and I get C. If I do it and you do it and someone else does it, you have A, you have B, you should get C. And that's kind of very simplistically the way that the scientific method works. What I do, you know, as I discover these various things, if I get the mathematical understanding of it, the scientific understanding of it, if I get that theory and I've gotten the bugs out of the theory, so to speak, what I've learned and what I do, you know, I share with you, and you should be able to do the same thing. Thinking of spirituality, understanding the divine in those terms was kind of new and exciting in those days, but it holds true today. You know, science may be seen a little more jaundicely than it was back then. It may not seem quite so romantic, but the idea, the understanding is still the same, that when if I take A and I add it to B and I get C, you should be able to do the same thing. In this case, what we're talking about is we're talking about the divine. If I accept within me the realization of the truth, and I put this realization into practice through practicing, through affirmation, through study, through acceptance, through embodiment, and I get a demonstration, you should be able to do the same thing. Now, because it's spiritual, it can be a little more difficult. We're talking things on a metaphysical level here, you know, and sometimes that's a little difficult for people to wrap their minds around. But hey, you know, you got up in the morning, you opened your eyes, and you're experiencing this thing called life. Where did life come from? You know, you either accept that life just is happenstance, okay, not a real scientific way, or you can accept that there is some cause behind the life that we experience. If there's some cause, what is that cause? Well, that cause ultimately is the life principle itself, and we all experience it. And throughout history of humanity, we've had metaphysical, spiritual teachers that have brought tools into the world or shared tools with the world, and those individuals that utilize those tools, put them into practice in their life, saw a demonstration, a manifestation, and if they did it, we can do it too. You know, one of the things that sometimes I think we get a little carried away in New Thought, in religious science, science of mind and spirit, is the idea that we treat to feel good or to experience a little more prosperity or things like that. Reality is that we started out our life as a healing philosophy. Now, healing covers a broad spectrum of things, but imagine that no matter what it is that we come across in life, we have a bigger God. Well, what does that mean? It means that if the doctors have given us some really bad news, we have a bigger God. If our bank account has given us some really bad news, we have a bigger God. If our relationship has brought some really bad news, we have a bigger God. Knowing that, not living in fear, but living in faith, and knowing that in faith, as we speak our word, as we affirm through our prayer, that we not only have the opportunity to prosper, but we have the right to prosper because we are the divine expressing as us. We have to live in that level of consciousness. We have to know that, and we own that. And in that knowing and owning it, we're putting certain principles into practice in our life. Science, if you will. So, anyway, prayer as a science. He says, we should not think it strange to speak prayer as scientific. Science is a knowledge of laws and causes. The principle of any science has always existed. And that's one thing we need to understand. We don't create new principles. We don't create new laws. They've always existed. What we do is we discover them, and once we've discovered them, we put them into practice. He says the discovery of each principle and the gradual accumulation of facts relative to it prepare the way for a technique for its use. And in religious science, science of mind and spirit, the technique we use is that affirmative prayer treatment. There are other ways of addressing it, and they're equally as powerful. The beauty of affirmative prayer treatment is the fact that it's easy to learn, it's easy to put into practice, but it doesn't change the fact that we have to get to that point within ourselves, that point of knowingness, that end point. You know, we talked about it in the beginning of our lesson today. We've got to conceptualize, accept, and know that what we are treating for already exists, that there is a corresponding truth to the word that we speak, and that corresponding truth is already manifested within our mind as if it is already so. And when I say as if, you know, there's no wiggle room in that. You know, we can kind of get caught up in that as if. When I say as if, it is as experiential within your inner beingness as if it already is. You've experienced it, not just hoped it, not just thought about it, not just stated it, but you have already reached within yourself in your imagination that experience. It's one of the reasons why I like Neville, because that's one of the things he really focuses on, is we got to get to that point. Okay, he says, moving on, he says, this is also true of prayer. He says, we know that throughout all the ages, at all times and under all situations, prayers have been answered by some invisible agency, which apparently is no respecter of person, time, races, creeds, or cultures, but which forevermore proclaims whatsoever will may come. We got to state our word. We got to know that our word is truth. We got to accept our word as truth. We got to see that truth within our beingness as already made manifest. Okay? No doubts, no anxieties. We got to know, and we got to know that we know. He says, the agency which answers prayer is not concerned over particular religions, convictions. Never does it ask if we are intellectual, cultured, ignorant. It responds alike to all. I'm going to cut it there today, which is a little bit shorter than what I had originally planned, but it's important that we understand that this divine principle that we talk about, and I have often said, I don't care how you understand it, whether it's God or goddess or a pantheon of God, it doesn't make any difference. We all have, including people that claim that they don't believe in a deity per se, we all have some kind of hierarchy of beliefs, of which there is some top level. Now, that top level, if you happen to be an atheist, if you will, it might just be your belief within yourself, your self-confidence, or whatever. If you have that confidence within yourself, at least at that level, the divine principle will respond for you, through you. If you believe in something greater, then you are opening yourself up to greater possibilities, for greater expression in your life, for greater truth to be demonstrated and manifested, for higher and greater degrees of livingness. God wants you, divine spirit wants you, principle wants you to live life, live it more abundantly, not just in little ways, but in great big ways. As we know that, as we put it into practice. One of the things that Holmes talks about oftentimes in a lot of his literature is the teachings that what we call the master teacher brought into the world. It's not because we see him as some, great exception, but he is a great example, and he is a great teacher. And if you pay attention to what he taught back in the day and you put it into practice in your life today, now, you have every right to expect to see greater good demonstrated in your life. You can do it. And no one can do it for you, but you can do it for yourself. Now, having said that, we do have that which we call practitioners. That's another story for another day. I'm going to cut it today because we've run out of time. I want to thank you for being with us. I hope that you've taken, what we've got today and put it into practice, or will put it into practice. I hope that you go back and review those previous lessons that we've done, those shows that we've done on this book. You can put this into practice in your life. You are a powerful, incredible being. Don't shortchange yourself. I'll see you next week, and know as you go through the week that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, the presence of God watches over you. Truly, wherever you're at, God is there, and I know that for a fact, and all is well. I'll see you next week.